My loves, it is June. How crazy is that? Hi guys, I am back with yet another film review video. I'm a little bit sleep deprived maybe, or just somehow crazy otherwise, so if I make no sense today, then it's really not my fault. But it is June. Welcome back. It's officially the start of summer. Isn't June the start of summer technically? Even though in my mind already it's been a month since summer started, because all of May has been so nice and lovely and pretty warm as well. And it does also mean that I've been slacking off a little bit with watching films because the weather's been so nice. I'm not gonna stay inside to like stare at a screen. So I've been doing everything but watching films for this challenge, which means that I am actually a little bit behind on my May goal. I only watched 7 films in May. Actually, I watched 6 films in May, and then the 7th one I watched 2 days ago. But I'm still gonna include it because it's my challenge and my rules. So I'm gonna cheat a little bit and I'm gonna include the 7th one in the video. I think this may be a good thing actually, if we really think about it, because I'm gonna be able to hopefully dive a little bit deeper with each of the films and talk a little bit longer about them because we have the extra time. I hope you're sat with a snack and a drink. I hope you brought your patience with you today, because I might actually just go on for minutes just yapping and not really saying anything of substance. So you're just gonna have to bear with today. Sorry. Anyways, let's get started. If you remember, you may or may not remember, my category slash theme for May was non-English speaking films. The reason for this was last year when I was doing my first film watching challenge, I realized when I was doing like the compilation and looking at the data from that year, I realized that I've been really neglecting watching films that are not in English. Like I watched quite a few, but it was still an overwhelming majority of just English speaking films. I wanted to change that, of course. I was a little bit disappointed by that data and by my findings because I felt like it was limiting my experience, and I felt like there were so many stories out there that I was missing by not watching more, not foreign films. I'm foreign as well, I'm not a native English speaker, but like more films that are not in English and are not super mainstream. I thought that it would be a good idea this year to dedicate 1 month to watching only movies that are not in English, just to help break out of that. So that's what we did last month. As like I said, I only have 7 that I actually watched, but I had a really long list of options, very long. So there's definitely quite a few out there that I'm still going to be watching, just not last month. I just couldn't fit them in last month. But I will be watching them in the future, don't you worry. I also tried to do a good job picking different storylines and different types of films, different languages and countries as well. So I don't have 2 films with the same language, and tried to pick a good variety of themes so we could get like different types of films to talk about today, and you can get a nice variety of options as well if you want to pick and choose any films that you might want to watch. Editor, get this on screen, and in advance I will apologize for any of the pronunciations of the directors' names. Unfortunately, I do not speak all languages in the world, and I'm gonna try and butcher them as little as I can, but if I do say anything wrong, feel free to correct me in the comments. Here are my 7 films that I watched in May. Roma by director Alfonso Cuarón, Another Round by director Thomas Vintabari, The Deadlands by director Toa Frazier, Little Amelie or The Character of Rain by directors Maëlys Bayade and Lian Cho-han, City of God by director Fernando Meirelles, The Wolves Always Come at Night by director Gabriel Brady, and It Was Just an Accident by director Jafar Panahi. Starting off with the film Roma. This is a semi-autobiographical film, which means that it's kind of based on the director's life when he himself was a child living in Roma, which is a district or neighborhood in Ciudad de Mexico in Mexico City. It follows a helper slash a living maid who lives with this kind of upper middle class family living in Roma in Mexico City. It pretty much just follows their life as the family goes through some transformations, and as the main character Cleo herself also goes through some things in her life. In this historical context of the film, there's also some political turmoil going on in Mexico at the time, so we can see a little bit of that as well. Just also throwing it in there, it is set in 1970 and 1971, so around that time. So this film is super stylized, if that's a good word to describe it. It's, first of all, it's black and white. It was filmed in color and then converted into black and white in post-production, which is a very interesting way to do it. It also, especially towards the beginning, it has a lot of like really long, like slow moving, panning, establishing shots of the environment of the family house. We get a really good understanding of how it is that they live, all the furniture, all of the things that they have in their house, all the rooms, how the kids' rooms look, how, you know, the living room looks. It feels like he just drops us into this house and this environment, and we get a good amount of time in the beginning of the film to orient ourselves and really like absorb the environment that this film is going to take place in. It does also make a lot of sense as to why director Cuarón would want to have these kinds of shots in the beginning of the film, when you know and understand that this is partially drawing from his own childhood and his upbringing. It does make it feel a lot more intimate and personal, because we know as well that he's probably designed the set and designed the house based on what his house used to look like when he was a child. So it does create that kind of personal connection, and it feels like we as the audience are getting like a little bit of a glimpse into his world. I really appreciated that. I thought that was really well done and a really nice little touch as well, and it makes the movie just that bit more personal. I have to say though, and I'm sorry to say this, but I really wish it had been in color. I understand that there's a creative vision and there is a reason why it has been converted to black and white, but I would have loved to see all of the vibrant colors of the family home, and like, especially knowing that Mexico City is such a vibrant place, I would have loved to see the colors. But I can understand and appreciate a really strong creative vision, and I'm glad that they stuck to it. If that was what they wanted to see, then I can appreciate that. But I would have loved to see it in color. Maybe at some point they're gonna release it in color, you never know, and then I will be watching it. I'm not gonna say heaps about the plot because I would rather you just watch it for yourself. However, I will say I really liked the exploration of the relationships between Cleo and the family, especially their 4 kids and then the mum. It's really awesome to see how they like delved deeper into and establish the relationships between Cleo and the family, the mom and the kids. It feels really personal. It really feels like there's been personal experience, and this is drawing from something that the director knows very well, because it feels so authentic. And obviously when you have a situation where you have a worker, whether it's a maid or a babysitter or au pair or whatever, who is living with that family and with them 24/7 and interacts with them constantly, of course you are gonna grow a super special, very close bond. And I feel like you can see it really well in this film, especially towards the end of the film. There's a scene by the ocean, if you've seen it you'll know, that really shows like how close Cleo is with the family and how much of a bond they have and how she's part of the family as well. I thought that was very well done. All in all, this film isn't like the wildest ride, or like plot wise it's not like the craziest film ever, but it is a super warm and like not lighthearted. It's a super warm and personal film, and I think that's what makes it so good. It is a really lovely film. Highly recommend. So this next film is called Another Round. It's a Danish film. It does have Mads Mikkelsen in it, if that makes a difference to you. It definitely made a difference to me. This film basically, it has quite a fun premise. This film follows a group of teachers who are all like middle-aged-ish men. They are all kind of, in one way or another, a little bit like disappointed with their lives. Maybe they thought that they would be somewhere else by now in their lives, and like maybe they're a little bit disappointed with themselves or their work or their family life, whatever it may be. They come across this scientific study that claims that humans are born with essentially a deficiency of alcohol. It theorizes that if you're able to maintain constantly 24/7 every day a slightly elevated alcohol level, that your life will be better. And so these guys are like, fucking hell, this is revolutionary, we have got to try it. And so they do. So they start drinking, going to work drunk, teaching kids. They are high school teachers, teaching kids drunk, being at home with their families and children drunk, driving drunk. And we follow what happens next. Like, we see how it unfolds during this film. I'm not trying to encourage anybody to try this out, but it's a really interesting concept to try and maintain like a constant level of inebriation in your daily life and just be slightly drunk all the time. And it goes great at first, like it's fantastic at first. All of these guys feel like they're doing better at work. They are encouraging the kids who they teach at work better. They are connecting with them better. They are performing better at home with their partners and their children. Like, it's going well at first. But you know the thing with alcohol where like it's an addictive substance? Yeah. They find out. In all seriousness, I think it's a really good exploration of their lives, and like I said, the different areas where they feel like they might not be performing their best in their lives. Like, for example, with family, feeling disconnected from your partner, or not feeling like you're doing the best job you can be doing for your children, or you feel like you're underperforming at work, or you're just not happy as a person. It's doing a really good job dealing with those things, especially with Mads Mikkelsen's character, because he's the main character. And I'm sure it's also something that a lot of people in their 40s and 50s are able to relate to as well. I'm not in that part of my life, so I can't say anything about that. I think it is definitely dealing with some super relatable topics as well, so I appreciate that. I think that's really great. And like I said before in all of my videos, I like films where I can get like a glimpse into somebody's life who is fully different from me. Like, I have no experience of what it's like to live the life of a 50-year-old high school teacher, and now I have some through watching this film. So I thought that was really awesome. That's what I meant when I said that watching different types of films kind of opens up your mind and grows your empathy and grows your view of what life can be and what the world can be like. I don't know if it makes a lot of difference with this film being set in Denmark, but I do kind of love it because it is set in Denmark and it is in Danish. I haven't watched a Danish film before this, but yeah, I really like this one. I would love to see more Danish films as well. If you have any recommendations, let me know. Yeah, like I said, this film is super funny. It's quite lighthearted, but at the same time, it's really profound, like obviously dealing with these characters' issues. And then alcoholism, which is a huge problem. I don't know, at least in my country, alcoholism is a major issue. And so I think films like this are super important to have because they're taking up this issue in like seemingly a lighthearted and funny and relatable way, but also it's like actually dealing with a super serious issue, and I appreciate that a lot. Okay, we're getting into some serious shit now, so definitely like lock in. This is a film that was recommended to me by my friend Patrick because I was on the lookout for a feature film fully in Te Reo Maori because I've been wanting to watch one, and this one intrigued me because it is historical. So this is set in pre-colonial Aotearoa, New Zealand. I thought the premise was interesting. I love historical films in general, so I was like, I have to watch it. And I did. I'm gonna talk to you about it. This is essentially a revenge story. It's about a kid called Hongi, even though we barely ever hear his name in the film. His entire tribe is killed by another tribe. I'm not gonna tell you the context around it because I'd rather you just watch it for yourself, but his entire tribe is killed by another tribe, and so he is the only male descendant from his tribe and his family. So he goes out to get revenge on these people who killed his family. He makes his way to the Deadlands, which is an area that is said to be haunted or ruled by this Taniwha who essentially kills anybody who enters that territory. And so he actually ends up finding and teaming up with this Taniwha to eliminate his enemies. Hey everybody, it is me from the editing room with my basil plant. I am just having to refilm some of the stuff that I said about the Deadlands because I genuinely just went way off the point and started rambling about random shit and none of it makes sense. And watching it back, I'm like, what was I on? But I was very sleep deprived or something that day. I said it in the beginning of the video as well. Like, I was not well. I was unwell that day. Just to give you the gist of my thoughts about the Deadlands, basically, like I said, it's a revenge movie. So obviously, true to the genre of revenge films, it was very violent, which is not usually my cup of tea. But I think paired with kind of the historical storyline and the historical aspects, obviously I can't really say much about the historical accuracy because I'm not that well versed with Maori culture. But I really liked it specifically with the historical aspects tied in to the storyline. And there were some scenes where, you know, Hongi kind of gets in contact spiritually to his ancestors, and I thought that was a really, really awesome part of the film. I wish they had played into that more, and I wish it had more sort of an emotional, like spiritual dimension in general. And I feel like just in terms of the relationships between the characters, there could have definitely been some more development there, and they could have gone way deeper with the character development and the relationships as well. But I understand that it is the way it is because it's a revenge film and mostly it deals with the, you know, story of Hongi finding justice for his murdered family. Like, I get that is the main bit, but I do wish it had been a little bit more like deeper with the relationships and the spirituality of it all. Another thing that I said was that I was quite surprised with the amount of mentions of cannibalism in this film, purely because I had no idea that cannibalism has actually been such a big part of Maori culture historically. And I did a lot of research after watching the film, and I found out and read about how big of a part of Maori culture it has been, especially in revenge situations like this film. From what I read, the motivation has been that, you know, the worst thing that you could do to somebody else is to eat their flesh, essentially, and that eating somebody's flesh allows you to absorb their mana as well. And that was really, really interesting for me to read about. Obviously, it's quite a gruesome concept, and if you're not a part of the culture, if you haven't been brought up in that culture, like, you are not going to be able to fully understand it, and that's totally fine. But it was really, really interesting for me to read about and to learn about. And again, I would have never learned that part of Maori culture had I not watched this film and been confused and then researched it. So we're all learning new things every day. I would especially recommend this if you're into revenge stories in general. You will probably like this. Just the fact that it is a feature-length film all throughout spoken in Te Reo Maori is super, super awesome. There aren't heaps of films like that. So I do hope that they keep making more of them as well. I will be the first person in the cinema watching it. Back to past me rambling on in some sort of sleep deprivation induced delirium. Yeah, I hope you enjoy. Okay, this is gonna be a full 180 of the of the Deadlands. A fully different type of film, but that's what we love on this channel. It's variety. It's the balance, you know? This is Little Amelie, or the character of Rain. I'm just gonna call it Little Amelie. This is an animated film. We know how much we love those on this channel. If you watch my previous video, you will know I love animated films. The animation, the art style of this film is so gorgeous. It's beautifully animated. It's super saturated, especially all of the surroundings. The nature is drawn so beautifully. I saw this in cinemas with my sister and her boyfriend, third wheel, and I loved it. I cried, she cried, my sister cried as well. We were bawling our eyes out in the cinema. It was such a lovely story. It was beautifully animated. I haven't even told you what the story is. Hold on. To put it simply, this story is about a young girl called Amelie. She's born in a vegetative state, which means that she is really not like responding to anything. She's not reacting to anything that happens around her until her second birthday, when there's a seismic event that happens in Japan where they live, and that kind of breaks the bubble that she's been in, and she starts to live life to the fullest as a little 2-year-old. And she at first is super hostile against all of her family members until her grandmother kind of tames her with white chocolate. It's really crack up. It's super random. From there, it starts to build actual meaningful relationships with her family members. They have a helper or a babysitter who comes in and helps the family, who's called Nishio-san, and Amelie actually develops a really, really close, they're like this relationship with Nishio-san, and we kind of get to follow their life together and how they build those relationships. And it's super cute. It's very wholesome. It's very heartfelt, beautifully animated, made me cry, made my sister cry. It's in French. This is a very emotional movie, and it's interesting to me how they can like take up and process pretty adult concepts and emotions through the lens of this 2-year-old, because Amelie kind of considers herself to be a god or like a divine presence. It seems like she isn't really a 2-year-old because she partially seems to be developing so much faster than a regular 2-year-old would, and she seems to have more like emotional intelligence capacity than a regular 2-year-old would. So it's a little bit ambiguous whether or not she's actually just a child or actually a god in a child's body. But it's really interesting how they can take concepts of like loss and change that are essentially pretty like adult concepts that kids have a tough time understanding, like deal with those concepts in the film through the eyes of Amelie, the 2-year-old, and then somehow make it work. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's really, really well done. It's so well done. It actually like made me as a 24-year-old think about some things about life differently. I was kind of surprised by that, by how profound a film like this can be, where the premise is essentially following the life of a 2-year-old. It was very profound and very good. I thought they were really able to convey the emotions of the film very well through the actual art style and animation, which is not easy. Yeah, it's just another example of why I think animation is such a beautiful genre, because there isn't anything you can't do, especially with hand-drawn animation. Like, there's no limit for you. You can do whatever you want. And that is the beauty of it all. This is a film that's been on my list for quite a long time, and I was so excited to finally be able to watch it. This is City of God, which is a Brazilian film. This tells the story of essentially a bunch of different people in a neighborhood in Rio de Janeiro called City of God. At its core, it's actually a story about 2 different kids who we see grow up. The first one of our main characters is called Rocket. He has a dream to get out of the favela and begin a life as a journalist and a photographer. The second guy who we are following is called Little Zay, and he essentially gets tangled up in a life of crime and drugs. And so we're following the stories of these two guys, but in order to tell the story of these two kids, the film goes around in like circles and detours and things and tells us the story of so many other people around them and then in this neighborhood. But it does it in such a smooth way that you never ever think about anything being like confusing. It's just done in such a smooth way that the narration and the storytelling is excellent. Okay, it never feels too confusing. It never feels like there's too many people involved or it's too crowded or you can't follow it or you can't stay on top of what's going on. It's so well done, so well made. Yeah, it just feels like they couldn't have possibly structured the plot a different way because it just fits together so perfectly. It's just like, yeah, they couldn't have done it any other way. I have to mention the very first scene and then one of the very last scenes in the film because they're the same. The very first scene that we see, it already establishes some of the characters and it already tells us that the stakes are very high to these characters. There's some kind of conflict going on, there's something happening, but we have no clue who anybody is or what is going on, what the context is, what the background story is. And then it starts like 10, 15 years earlier, and then it tells us step by step, person by person, what's been going on, what's been happening until this point. And then at the very end, like the third last scene, is the same scene from the beginning, but this time we know exactly what's been going on, we know exactly who is who, we know what's led up to this point. And it's just such a perfect, beautiful, full circle situation. When you realize what they did and how they brought it all back to the same point to where we started, you're just like, absolute cinema, seriously. So fucking well made. It's just such a brilliant way of editing and telling the story. It's just such a masterclass in storytelling. And I'm not even talking about anything else. Like, it's the cinematography is great, the filming and the structuring is great, all of the shots are great, the color grading is great, like the editing is great. It's just such a good film. It's really good. One thing I will say is this is a very violent film. Like, I don't think I've ever heard this many gunshots in a film before in my life. Like, during a single film, I think this takes the cake of most gunshots ever. And so if you're girly like me who doesn't really take well to like super violent films, maybe watch this with a support person. Just don't get super attached to a character because there's a chance that they may die. A very high chance that they may die. But like I said, it's a really good film and I highly would recommend that you watch it just purely for the narration, the dramatic arch, and the editing of the story. And the performances are great as well. Yeah, just watch it. Just watch it. Get out of here. Watch it now. Okay, this is a film that actually took me a long time to watch. A long time. I'm gonna get into the reasons why. The film is called The Wolves Always Come at Night. It's a Mongolian dramatized retelling documentary film by an Australian director. The plot is about a nomadic Mongolian family who live out in the Gobi Desert, and their livelihood essentially consists of raising animals, and they live a nomadic lifestyle. This family is super happy, super content living the life that they have until there is a climate change related extreme weather event that ends up killing off pretty much their entire pack of animals, and they are forced to move into the city of Ulaanbaatar, sorry for pronunciation, to try and find more and better opportunities for livelihood because they've lost their entire income. And like I said, this is a docudrama film, so it's a dramatic reenactment of actual events. So this has happened to this family and they are reenacting it for this documentary. Now, the reason why it took me a long time to actually finish this is because it's slow. It's really slow. It's beautifully filmed, but it is probably the longest 90 minutes of my life. And I don't really want to shit on this film because it's really profound and beautifully filmed, and it has a really important message, especially with the climate change situation and showing how climate change affects people's lives and what it can do, what the consequences are. But it was really, really slow. I started it in May and I watched half of it and then I couldn't keep going, and then like the 3rd of June or something, I forced myself to finish it so that I could talk about it in this video. If you're into super realistic, super like humane and down-to-earth films and you don't care if they're slow, you're gonna like this. But if you need some kind of like plot, if you need a plot that's constantly being driven forward by different happenings and characters and stuff, this doesn't have that. Like I said, the cinematography in this movie is amazing. We get some really beautiful shots of the Mongolian landscape, of the Gobi Desert. We get some really good shots of the city as well later in the film, but it is definitely lacking in the plot department a little bit. There's quite a lot of empty space in this film. It has a really important message with the climate change. You know, it shows us very clearly how consequences of the climate change affect people and what it is that we are doing to this planet and how it is going to be affecting people. And it's awful to see, and it's a really important film. So it pisses me off a little bit that it's so empty, because I feel like that is going to deter a lot of people from actually watching it when we should be showing it to everybody, you know? It's profoundly sad, especially seeing how this family is, you know, forced to go through this massive change their entire life, uproot their entire lives, move into the city, into a new environment that they don't really feel like they belong in. You can clearly see in the film how they feel a little bit like outsiders. They feel, especially the father of the family, feels like he is losing himself a little bit, while both the mom and the dad of the family are missing their old life so much. They keep making plans of going back. They're like, one day we're gonna go back. We're gonna move back to our families, to where they feel like they belong. And it is so sad to watch that in real time in the documentary, watching that happen, seeing the exact cause that, you know, the family couldn't help at the time. Like, they couldn't do anything about the extreme weather and they couldn't have done anything more to keep their animals safe. At the end of the day, it is still something that we could have prevented because it's climate change related. Yeah, it makes you think about what we are doing as a hyper materialistic capitalist society, what we are doing to this earth and how it's ruining innocent people's lives and livelihoods and the planet. Countless people are going to be affected, their families, you know, their lives, their livelihoods, their homes, their communities. It's a really, really important message, and this film delivers it with this kind of quiet melancholy almost. I really wish that a lot more people would watch this film, but like I said, due to the stylization and the creative direction of this film, I think it's going to deter a lot of people from watching it, but I do think you should. Last but not least, we have a film called It Was Just an Accident. So this is a film by an Iranian director called Jafar Panahi. I've never seen any films by this director, but I know that he has been super involved in the kind of new age of Iranian cinema, and he's very disliked by the Iranian government for the films that he's made. He's been in trouble a few times, and that makes me respect this guy a lot. So I was super excited going to this film to see it, and unfortunately I missed the timing to actually go see this in cinemas because they were showing it here in Finland, but I missed the timing, so I was forced to watch it on the tiny screen of my laptop in very bad quality. But I've seen it nonetheless, so I'll talk to you about it. This film is about our main guy called Vahid, who by chance encounters a man who he thinks is somebody who tortured Vahid when he was in Iranian prison. The reason why he thinks that it is this guy is because he recognizes him by the sound that his artificial prosthetic leg makes when he walks. He can't be 100% sure that it is actually this man because the entire time that Vahid spent in this Iranian prison, he was blindfolded. So he never actually saw the people who tortured him there, but he distinctly remembers the sound of this prosthetic leg. And so as soon as he hears it, he's like, fuck. And so what he does is my guy Vahid follows this guy and knocks him out with the door of his car, packs the guy into the back of his van, goes to bury him alive. And then this guy wakes up. He's like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, I'm not the guy that you're looking for, blah, blah, blah. He claims that he is not this guy that Vahid has been looking for. And Vahid thinks he is. Vahid starts to become a little bit, like he starts to second guess himself a little bit. He's like, oh shit, am I wrong? So then he goes and finds other people who he thinks that can verify that it is actually the correct guy that he thinks he has. That he thinks he's caught, essentially. Eventually, we end up with a whole group of people who all have been involved with this man somehow and who all think that he is the guy. And we follow as they try to decide whether or not they should get their revenge on this person who they think is that guy, but they can't be 100% sure because they were all blindfolded and nobody has seen his face, so they can't be like 100% sure. It's very interesting. It's a really cool premise. This is a really good film. It's, again, I haven't seen any of this director's other work, so I can't say of the similarities to his other work, but it's kind of deceptively funny and lighthearted at times, even with like obviously the heavy topics that it's dealing with and the trauma that these characters are going through and have been through and the stress that they're going through right now. It still manages to be super funny at times, really lighthearted. It deals with this really interesting ethical dilemma, obviously, of these characters who have been through some awful, disgusting shit that no person should ever have to go through. And they find the person who they think might be the perpetrator, but they can't be sure because they haven't been able to verify with their eyes. They were all blindfolded, so they have to rely on the memories that they have from their other senses. They have to try and verify whether or not it is actually this guy. And then there's also the part of should they or should they not get their revenge on this person. And it's really interesting ethical dilemma. From the research that I was able to do and from what I found out, this is partially drawing from the personal experience from this director from the time that he spent in prison and was also blindfolded and couldn't tell what was happening around him other than based on hearing, smell, and touch and other senses. It was really cool. It was really interesting. There's, you know, the lightheartedness, but then below that, there's a very distinct sense of anger from the director and from the characters of the situation that they're in and the things that have happened to these characters. It's a very well done balance. I don't think there's a lot of people who could do it as well as this director has. Also, I have to say the ending is fantastic. It's so well done. I can't say what it is, but it's so good. The last shot or sequence or scene in the film is going to haunt me for ages. It's like every day since I watched that film, I've been thinking about it. It's just sending chills down my spine as I'm speaking about it. It's so good. Definitely watch it if you get the chance. It's very good. That was rough, but we've come to an end of the video. I really have no clue what I said. I hope it made sense. I hope that you were able to take any recommendations at all. I hope that you've enjoyed at least some of this video. and I'm very, very excited about the films that I'm watching in June. I know I say this every month, but I'm very excited about the June films. They are all going to be summer themed. So if you have a favorite summer movie, drop it down below. And I may watch it if I haven't already seen it. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.